Okay, so it's the question of whether or not you should buy a house in 2021, and I know it is on the minds of a lot of people. It's a tough decision to make, and the main piece of it is, will you regret buying? And I think the answer to this is some people may and some people may not, but it all depends on what happens during the transaction, and that's what we're going to talk about today is, will you regret purchasing a home in 2021? But before we get into it, I've done you the favor of putting this video together. If you wouldn't mind doing me the favor of going ahead and clicking that subscribe button, it would mean a lot to me. And also hitting that notification bell and the like button at the same time would be even better. And if you want to leave a comment, that's amazing as well. And don't forget, if you do subscribe, you'll be entered into our Race to 25,000 Subscribers contest, where one lucky subscriber is going to win $5,000 towards their TFSA, their RSP, their RESP, or even to pay down their mortgage. All you have to do is click that subscribe button to enter to win. It's free, it's easy, and it's definitely worth it. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit: product, penalty, price, in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's discuss whether or not you should purchase a home in 2021 in Canada, because it is the question that is on the minds of many Canadians right now. A lot of people just don't know what they should or shouldn't be doing. And I'm going to tell you first and foremost that this is not a question that anybody else can answer for you. Only you can answer the question of whether or not you should be purchasing a home in 2021. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give you some guidelines and help you figure out if you would regret purchasing a home in 2021 in this video. But before we get into that, I just want to jump in here real quick and show you a few of the recent headlines so you understand where we're coming from when it comes to answering this question. So first and foremost, we've got this: Trudeau tightens up mortgage rules after Bank of Canada sounds housing alarm. Obviously, last week, the Bank of Canada released their financial systems report, and it talked about housing being one of the major vulnerabilities to the Canadian economy. And then on top of that, we also had OSFI announce that they're going to go ahead and move forward with their stress test rate increase from 4.79 to 5.25, which is the equivalent of about a 4 to 5% decrease in buying power. And on top of that, the one thing that wasn't expected to happen that day, but that we've largely expected would happen eventually, was the finance minister announced that that stress test increase would be aligned for insured mortgages, meaning basically that if you were getting a mortgage with a big bank or a big monoline lender in Canada, you are going to have to qualify at 5.25% going forward for the next few, or for at least the next 6 months. They're going to go and take a look at this every December and basically try to figure out what the new stress test should be for the year going forward. So at least until December of this year, you're going to be qualifying now at 5.25%. And then we saw a few other things come out. We saw this financial system review, and one of the interesting charts that came up was the share of new mortgages with a high loan to income ratio has surpassed its 2016-2017 peak. So what that means is that more people are borrowing more money to purchase homes, and they're borrowing more money in relation to how much income they make. Now, the debt servicing costs are all still the same. However, because interest rates are obviously lower, which means the payments are lower, and therefore you can borrow more and still have similar payments. But the reality of this is that Canadians are borrowing a lot of money to purchase homes for whatever reasons, whether it's purchasing a home that is closer to amenities, closer to the outdoors, a bigger home that has more room for office space so two people can work from home in it, whatever reason. And the reason why I put this video together today is because I want to go through and talk about the things that you may regret if you purchase a home in 2021. And this is going to be largely dependent on where in the country you are, what type of home you're purchasing, whether or not you absolutely need to. And this is all about just making sure that you do your due diligence and that you know 100% that you're making the right move for you before you make it. So here are 7 reasons why you may regret purchasing a home in 2021. First and foremost, number 1 reason that you're probably going to regret purchasing a home in 2021 is if you got into a bidding war. And if you got into a bidding war, it's probably going to be stressful, and it's probably going to lead you to do a whole bunch of the other things that I'm going to mention in this video, which you may regret even more. So moving on to number 2, the second reason, and this is obviously in all likelihood, the result of a bidding war is you end up overpaying for a property. So in other words, it's listed for 550 and you end up buying it for 730,000. You think, yes, I won that bidding war. And then you find out when the market goes back to normal that maybe you paid a little bit more than you should have because of the overexuberance in the real estate market. So that could end up being a really, really, really big regret for somebody. Third major issue that you're probably going to find and that you're probably going to regret is if you didn't have a financing condition, because here's what we're seeing happening is we're seeing people getting pre-approved thinking that they can go ahead, purchase a property. There'll be no big issues because they've got that pre-approval, and then for whatever reason, they don't get approved for the full mortgage. Maybe it's the property, maybe somebody made a mistake, but then they end up having to search and struggle to find a B lender or a C lender in order to allow them to complete the contract and complete the offer that they made to purchase a house. So not having this financing condition can be a major, major, major downfall if you aren't careful. Now, the next thing to consider there is if you don't have that financing condition and you end up in the wrong mortgage, or let's say you did have a financing condition and you just went out and you went to get the absolute lowest rate, and you didn't really care about the restrictions and all the things that come along with the low rates, or maybe you got a 5-year fix, not realizing that you could potentially have a big penalty down the road. Well, all of those things could be things that end up being major regrets down the road because you bought a house in 2021. Now, as an aside, before I get into the next three, we have a course called Secrets to Getting the Lowest Interest Rate. And we talk about all of those things. We talk about the risks associated with the lowest interest rate, the blind spots, the landmines, the surprises that can come up. And we talk about how to negotiate with your bank, how to negotiate with your broker, but do it from an informed position where you know exactly what you're getting into. And we have priced that course so low that we think that most people will get 10 to 50 times their money back just in the cost. In fact, I've put a special offer for Mortgage 360 in that course that if you buy that course, you will get at least guaranteed 10 times your money back. So you can put $10 in or $100 in and get $100 back or $1,000 back, pretty much guaranteed. And I will put a link in the description below with a discount code so that you can purchase that course for 50% off the already discounted price. Now, moving along to regret number 5 is you didn't get a home inspection. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a big one because people who have problems with their homes tend to sell them during hot markets because there's going to be less questions asked. So having a home inspection is hugely, hugely, hugely important to make sure that you aren't going to inherit somebody else's problems. And yeah, there's rules with respect to having to disclose material latent defects and all of those things, but a good home inspection can be worth its weight in gold by making sure that you don't have surprises in the property that come up 5, 10, 15 years down the road, or even 3 or 6 months down the road. The sixth major regret that people have, and I can tell you firsthand that this is one of the regrets we have at purchasing our house, is that you buy too much house. So in other words, you get caught up in the hysteria, you end up purchasing a way bigger house than you need, which means you need to do way more cleaning. You have more bills, you have more yard work, and all of the things that come along with having a bigger home. And a lot of people will find themselves in this scenario right now because everyone's buying bigger, not realizing that bigger means more yard maintenance and more house maintenance and more cleaning and all of those things. So, there's going to be a lot of people who regret how much house they buy in 2021. And obviously, regret number 7 is going to be you get caught up in the hysteria. And that's what all of the previous 6 are all about. It's getting caught up in these absolutely crazy markets. And my recommendation is if you can avoid getting caught up in a crazy market where there's bidding wars and having to write condition free, well, you're probably not going to have as many regrets as the people who do. And yeah, there's that possibility you may pay a little bit more for the house 6 months or a year down the road. But at the end of the day, what you're going to do is you're going to minimize your potential regrets. And your potential regrets, the things that come up when you get caught up in the hysteria, those are the things that have the biggest impact on people's finances in the long term, and whether or not they like the house they live in, they enjoy the house they live in, and whether or not they actually feel like they want to continue to live in that house long term. So if you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you have found yourself in a position before where you've regretted a home purchase, please share your experiences in the comments. And Don't forget about our race to 25,000 subscribers. We're going to give away $5,000 as soon as we get there. By the way, we're halfway to 25,000 subscribers as of today. So go ahead, click that subscribe button. It's free, it's easy, and it's definitely worth it. We'll see you on the next video. Cheers.